Hey guys, what is happening? AnimetalViking here, and welcome to another album review. Today I am going to be reviewing the latest offering from Australian deathcore band Thy Art Is Murder. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm not a huge fan of this band in particular. While I do enjoy some of their hit songs, I've tried listening to their albums from beginning to end in the past, and there was just something about their sound and their style that just never really allowed me to listen to their stuff in full, because it would just generally start to sound the same at some point, with the exception of their hit songs where they would be offering something a little different, and being something that kind of is a bit more grabbing. So I've never been a huge fan of this band, so I'm just going to be honest with you there. However, this is the first album by this band where I've listened to every track from start to finish and actually enjoyed all of them, and actually gave it a second listening, and will probably give it a third, fourth, whatever, and could possibly be in my top 10 favorite metal albums of 2016 list that will be going up at the end of the year. So it's definitely up there for consideration. So should you be listening to this record? Well, let's go over it. Okay, so it's definitely deathcore in terms of sound, production, CJ's vocal techniques, and the use of breakdowns. But like Carnifex, this album kind of leans more towards death metal, in the sense that the breakdowns are only used when it is necessary, as opposed to having one every other second or so after playing a short riff. They definitely delivered on what they said in the teasers, in the teaser interviews, where they said they'd focus more on one big idea and keep it kind of simplified, but with some interesting stuff in there to kind of keep the listener's attention. So that's definitely what they delivered on. Also, this is definitely their heaviest record to date. None of their previous albums can even compare to the heaviness of this one. It's well produced, it really is. And again, it's deathcore in sound, but it definitely leads more towards death metal. So I think death metal fans can definitely appreciate this record if they go out of their way to check it out. So this is definitely the heaviest record to date because of the production. The lyrics, while they mostly deal with politics and corporate greed, which is kind of somewhat of a change for this band. I mean, they have done it before, but as per usual, the band's signature religion-bashing lyrics can still be found on one or two songs. So, unlike their previous albums where it was more religion-bashing and less politics stuff, this time they went with more politics, less religion-bashing. They kind of swapped it out a bit, which is a nice a change for this band, because if you're one of those bands that likes to bash or something in particular, whether it's religion or politics or something, if your band solely focuses on that in terms of lyrics, you kind of run out of lyrics to kind of write pretty fast. At least that's what I've observed from a lot of bands that tend to stick to one set of lyrical themes. So it was definitely a nice change for them. Definitely better lyricism was done on this album. Also, the riffs. The riffs are extremely fast and full of energy. The drumming is on point as always. Thy Art Is Murder, their drummer is definitely one of the best drummers when it comes to not just deathcore, but I'd say in metal in general, especially as an up and coming drummer, an up-and-coming new generation of drummers. At least I think so. I mean, obviously there's the whole consensus thing, but fuck consensus. This is my opinion. So anyway, the drumming is definitely on point. So the Artist Bird have always had excellent drumming. CJ's vocals are great, but he doesn't bring anything new to the table with regards to his range. He pretty much still delivers the same vocal techniques that are kind of expected from him at this point, but it still sticks and fits well with what they've done here. So I'm not complaining with regards to that. It's just when they said it was going to be more death metal, I was kind of expecting maybe for him to try something new. And no, I don't mean clean vocals. I'm talking maybe some new kind of higher pitched vocals. I don't know. Or maybe he invented a new guttural technique. I don't fucking know. But other than that, the vocals are great. I cannot really complain about them too much. The songs more or less flow nicely into one another. I'm not gonna claim that they, like flow as in like, if you were listening to, the more proggy or symphonic type of bands, but more or less you can tell when a new song has started, as opposed to thinking it's the same song that you've been listening to for 10 minutes. So the songs definitely flow more or less nicely into one another. No Absolution is the only track on this album that resembles the style that they had been doing until the rest of these songs were written. No Absolution was released earlier this year when it was announced that CJ had returned, and they got to work on that track straight away, and I did a review of it earlier this year when it came out. I did a review of it, and I didn't find it to be anything particularly special per se, because again, like I just said now, it's the only track on the record, and it is the final track. It's the only one that kind of more or less resembles what they'd been doing prior to this album, with the heavy reliance on breakdowns and nothing really new on it, with the exception of the production. Obviously, that's a song, because it features on this album, is heavier than their previous works, but in terms of formula, is more or less the same as their older material. So that was the only one that really stood out. But I mean, I still enjoyed that track when I reviewed it earlier this year. So it was nice that they included it on here. I believe they weren't going to include it originally. I think on the original track listing, when they released the original track listing, if I remember correctly, it wasn't there, it wasn't listed. So I'm taking I'm going to take it that this was included as a bonus track. So yeah, that's the only one that really stands out in comparison to the others as, proper deathcore. What else? Okay, so the breakdowns are only used when necessary on the songs, like I said, but however, there is still a severe lack of guitar solos. Like, there are guitar solos on this album. They're not devoid of them entirely, but you won't hear one on every single song. You might hear elements that sound like a guitar solo per se, but turn out to be just a short little instrumental thing to kind of bridge into the next breakdown or something that you might find, or to add a bit of atmosphere to the intro. But you won't necessarily find a guitar solos on this like the way Carnifex would do them. So yeah, that's one of the criticisms I do have of it, apart from CJ's vocal range. Then obviously the songs all retain the same speedy tempo with no real change in pace. And while most deathcore and death metal fans might be happy about that, even I can admit that one or two slower tracks won't do any harm to a death metal or deathcore record. I mean, Cannibal Corpse often mix in more mid-tempo songs or riffs in the middle of their faster songs. They often add in more mid-tempo, sometimes slower tempo stuff, and it still sounds fantastic. So if a band like Cannibal Corpse, which must be a huge influence on Dieter's Murder, if Cannibal Corpse can do it, then so can these guys. So that's another criticism I have about it. But otherwise, it doesn't really harm the record at all. It's still fantastic. So the album is really short. It doesn't have a very long running time, and it finishes before you know it. But that's a good thing, because personally, I cannot listen to a deathcore record that is longer than necessary, unless it brings something unique and different to the table. So while some deathcore bands are definitely experimenting with the genre and are trying to add something different and unique to it, I cannot listen to a record that is like too long. Like, for example, Infant Annihilator's recent album, while it is a fantastic record, I do feel that the 17-minute long song, can't remember the name of the song now, but that particular track was just a tad too long. So at least with this, it's definitely short, sweet, to the point. It gets its message across in the amount of time that is expected of a deathcore record. But if they'd added something totally different to the table, or if any deathcore band added something totally different to the table, then I wouldn't mind a longer record per se. But this is a common criticism of deathcore that goes around. So hearing me say it is actually nothing new. So, but anyway, as I said, it finishes before you know it, but it gets to the point and it delivers on its message and everything. So that's a plus in its favor, considering the product we got. So the overall conclusion I can come to with regards to this album is the band have definitely found their sound. They've taken some time to look back on their previous material, take all the best elements of it, and put out this record. So you could say they kind of, as I like to put it, they kind of pulled the Carnifex over there, where they look back and were like, okay, this is what we like to do, this is what we're good at, we're going to put out an album that has everything in there, and it winds up becoming their best. I personally think this is their best album to date and their heaviest. Yeah, it's they've definitely found their sound. The songwriting is fantastic, but there is still room for evolution and improvement. Obviously, again, I'm not suggesting drastic evolution and improvement. Again, like a lot of deathcore bands that are actually evolving the genre, but in subtle ways. The Artist's Murder are definitely doing that. They have been doing that as well over the course of their career. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to what they're going to add on with the next album, provided they add something on, or if they just basically do this album like a 2.0 version. So yeah, definitely their heaviest record. CJ's vocals could use some more range, but overall he delivered on the brutality as promised, which he never fails to do. There are plenty of excellent and fast riffs. The use of breakdowns is used properly and to great effect, and there's a nice change in topic with regards to their lyricism for the most part. So with all that being said, I would have to rate this album an 8 out of 10. So when it drops, you should check it out. Definitely check it out. it is definitely their best record to date. If I can listen to this album from start to finish as opposed to their older material where I only enjoyed the singles, then in my opinion, this is an album that is definitely worth checking out, and this album is definitely going up for consideration for best album of one of the best albums of 2017. So yeah, guys, that concludes this review for today. I do hope you enjoyed this. What are your thoughts on the album? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, then be sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so. Also be sure to subscribe to my main channel as well. And share this video with your friends. Also guys, if you want me to review an album or review a band's discography, then you can submit your requests via Patreon. Be sure to check out my Patreon page and check out the reward tiers to see how you can do that. The same goes for reviews for anime, etc. There are tons of reward tiers there, so definitely go check my my Patreon out if you're interested. It is not necessary, but it is much appreciated. Also, guys, stay tuned for more content, and you can follow me on my Facebook page, my Twitter page. You can send me a friend request over on my anime list. I have a subreddit now which you can follow on there if you're looking for more in-depth discussions with regards to the videos. And you can also subscribe to my VidMe channel because YouTube is being a bitch and is taking videos down with so-called controversial topics and false copyright claims and whatnot. So yeah, definitely check VidMe out should any videos be deleted for some unfortunate reason. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning into this review, and until the next episode, take care of yourselves and have a kick-ass day.